Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. On this episode, Army vet, sort of. You're not technically a vet yet, but I still like to say Army vet. Uh, Tiffany Roman is joining us, and you know what's fun about Tiffany? Well, a lot of things, but her show. And I was for those of you who didn't catch the one I was on a few weeks ago. Small Biz Highlight is awesome, and she's created this huge community for small business owners, and that is just such a cool thing. Tiffany, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Like I told you before we started, I'm not used to being the interviewee, so this is exciting.
Yeah. We're gonna test you on this. And
Yes,
yeah.
bring it.
All right. Well, my first thing, I've been thinking about this all morning, really, is what was the catalyst that you said, hey, I should do a podcast, which is a lot of people out there, a couple of million, that say they
Yes.
want to do a podcast. But then you said, well, I want to focus on small business. Because if I remember right, you weren't a business owner at the time, were you?
No, I was actually working full time for the Army at
Mm-hmm.
the time, and pandemic shutdowns happened. And I just immediately, it broke my heart hearing all these stories on the news about all these small businesses that now have to close down because of them. What are they going to do now? There's so many small businesses out there that don't have the budget for marketing like the big name businesses do. So I knew I couldn't afford to buy something from all of them that just would not comply with my budget. So I tried to figure something else that I could do to help them. And I just reached out to a few of my friends and, hey, how would you feel about going live with me? I know nothing about what I'm doing. I don't know how to interview. I just want to give you a video that you can share on social media because they say that, videos are more responsive on posts and stuff rather than just posting about other businesses. And, I had a few of them that said yes to kind of help kick it off.
What was that impact like early on?
Uh, as far as viewership and whatnot, you mean, or just on me in general?
More so for the small businesses that came up.
Goodness. So at the beginning, it was really just I want to help out a few of my friends. It was never it was never my intention to have it grow like this. It was not in the plan. But I guess the universe had another plan for it. But towards the beginning, it was a learn as I go moment where I'm trying to figure out how to interview, what questions I should ask, but I really was trying to focus on making sure I was introducing the people behind the business, making it about human beings, not just about their services and what they can offer. I really wanted it to be about who would you be actually supporting should you choose to reach out to this business about their products or services. And, the people really actually responded to it in a very positive way, I guess, because it was something that was not being done very often or that people could find. So it was just a different approach to it and a good response.
Yeah, I think there's a habit because we picture the big corporations and big businesses that we all know, and they're completely faceless to us, or the face that we picture is the logo, not a person or anything. And I think we have a habit to do that to small businesses as well. You don't think about the ma and pa that are running the ma and pa store. You just see the sign on the wall, and so I think that's a great idea because when you show the person, it really removes that barrier, and it can get people that that extra 50 cents you're charging per t-shirt or whatever compared to a Walmart. It doesn't look like too much when you're talking to somebody and that money puts their kid through college instead of buying a second home out in the mountains somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. And like your dad would know after being on the show, I even take it one step further and put it completely on the guest to introduce themselves. Sure, I'll mention the name, the business, or whatever, but I am a really advocate for the idea that you cannot build a connection with anybody who's watching the video if it's coming from me, who you are, what you do, where you're from. That kind of stuff needs to come from you, because then what you're mentioning in that moment after I ask you, who are you, those are the items that are most important to you. Those are the things that are then going to connect with somebody out there like, hey, I like some of the same things, or I'm in a similar position, or I live near there. I got to get in touch with this person. So
I'm gonna test your memory, or maybe it's not really. What was your, or what up to this point, is it was or is your favorite story, your favorite and if you don't want to call out favorite because you love them all like your children,
I
right?
do love them all. Yeah.
Yes. You don't have to mention the name. You can just kind of dance around it, but I know you've got to have at least one.
I would say that there was one story that really touched me, on a whole other level beyond just being proud of everything she's accomplished. My friend, Diana, formed her own skincare company out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's called Ferroche Skin Studio, and it's for both men and women, a whole big line. But her story, just like, she almost made me cry. And I told her, I'm supposed to be the Oprah here, not you. And she finally like laughed a little bit. But she went through some really tough times. You know, she lost her son in a horrible motorcycle accident and found herself in a deep depression, not wanting to do anything, take care of herself and whatnot. And through finding the love for herself again is how she found the motivation to learn about skincare, to learn about products and how to build it, and then ultimately build it up to forming her own business. And she just opened her own brick and mortar now. So she's my hero, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what was that? Was it the hurdles that she had to overcome, or the change that she made? What was that thing that really draws you to her story?
It was the hurdles. I suffered really hard with postpartum depression after having my kids. And it seemed as, even though I didn't lose a child, that I could never begin to understand what that would feel like. Going through postpartum depression and through that struggle, while on active duty in the military and all this other stuff going on, my wavelengths, my brain was just not computing, was not functioning at full capacity like it used to. I was a totally different person than I am today. And, I'm still not at 100%, but I am so much better now than when I was back then. And I feel like growing this business and forcing myself to put myself out there on video all the time, interviewing all these people, is actually helping to heal me a lot easier than just waiting around for it to happen. And I'm very grateful for that. So in a way, we've used our businesses to heal, and it's a work in progress, but we're getting there. And that's why I kind of connect with her a lot more.
I think that's great, because the sense of purpose can do so much for somebody in depressed state, and with all sorts of other types of conditions. Whatever your situation is, having a sense of purpose and something to work towards gets you out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed. And I think that not that it's the easiest thing to go out and start a small business, and to especially if you're in that deep depression, that is very, very difficult to do. But to have that purpose to work towards, it keeps you moving and and you get out of it eventually.
I had an extra kick in the butt, if you will, for starting the business. The very first day that I was going to broadcast, April 20th. So tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
My 2-year anniversary. Goodness, 2 years, 2 years. 2 years ago on April 20th, about an hour before I was going to go live, I got the phone call that my grandfather passed away. And I remember my guest that night was like, well, do you want to hold off? I was like, no, like, I can't. My grandfather would literally kick me from beyond the grave if I don't do this, because he was always one of my biggest cheerleaders, always telling me, the universe has been kicking you left and right. They owe you something. You never know what's going to be your next big thing. Never quit a chance before it starts. Go. And so from then on, I have dedicated every first for the business to my grandfather, so that's an extra level of motivation there.
That's I love that too, because that motivation, and I was actually trying to remember the Marcus Aurelius quote, and I'll paraphrase it about purpose, but it's even unthinking animals sleep, but we should get up each morning to fulfill our be who we are supposed to be and move towards our purpose. And you think about that, that's a lot of truth to it. And I think what Camden said is a great point, because when we have a purpose, it leads us out of that darkness, because then we know we're doing something. And your purpose you've discovered it, has become serving others, other small businesses. And what do you see changing, or do you? Because you've been doing 2 years, that's a lot of data points with all the small businesses you've talked to. What do you see? Have you seen any trends in the small business community that, the kind of like they all have this problem, or they all do this right, or whatever it may be?
Even now, after a year, I guess, since the shutdowns were depleted and whatnot, even now there's so many small businesses still closing after the effects of COVID. As far away as it seems, or it's starting to seem, it's still very much affecting people today still, and it's so sad. I know that I don't know about trends as far as what I would say. The trend I would see is that the businesses that were willing to take a chance at taking a curve, at trying something new, that they were totally going out of their comfort zone that they were in, they were able to use that to their advantage to, really enhance their business and grow it despite the trials that they were going through. So something as simple as, someone who completely relied on going face to face and meeting people, and now, doing virtual events or virtual meetings and whatnot. It may be uncomfortable. It may not be as personable as they're hoping for, but despite their negative thoughts about it, they went and did it anyway. And because of that, they were able to continue, keeping that roof over their heads as far as the business goes, and I feel like the shutdowns really put people in a position where it forced them to really test themselves, see what they were willing to do and what they weren't willing to do. And, knowledge, stuff they were taking for granted, like social media that they may never have touched, or, oh, my grandkids do that, or my children do that. I don't want to do that. But now they're wanting to learn. You see so many more older generations on social media and whatnot learning how to do it, because now they're realizing it is important, not just for their business, but their personal, keeping in touch. I mean, it's crazy how everything has shifted into a digital platform, regardless of, what people's beliefs are about it.
What that makes me think of is I remember really early on in the pandemic, and I know a lot of friends that this joke is very true for. It was like, you're either going to come out of the pandemic with a drinking problem or a couple new hobbies. And it's kind of like there's this route or there's this route, right? Well, for businesses, it's the same kind of thing. And I'm not going to name drop it, but there's an organization in Tucson that is still using the pandemic as a crutch. And we can't do these things because the pandemic. And I mean, frankly, I'm in Arizona. Pandemic was over a year and a half ago, like as far as a lot of these people are concerned. Like, but you gotta adjust to the setting. And if you choose to just kind of play victim and, let the pandemic run your business rather than taking control of it, then that's going to keep going even when restrictions are lifted and you are able to get back doing those things, like with that unnamed organization, because I'm not going to take a shot at them. But then you have all the other businesses, like you're saying, that chose to take action, chose to make those changes, and those those choices are paying dividends now. And so it's just like the drinking problem or a hobby, you got a choice. This is the new situation, and you got a choice of which way you want to go. And the pandemic has kind of revealed character in that sense, is the new way I've been putting it, looking at businesses.
it's really put it out there who's really serious about their business, and not to condemn the people who, put down anybody whose business had to close as a result of the pandemic. It was no easy task to keep any type of business open during the pandemic. And it breaks my heart that so many closed down. I hope that, if they find a way to reopen, they can later on or whatnot. But, the ones that had that moment where they could, have that choice to either make it happen or let the pandemic take them as victim, and they chose to go for it, that you're seeing the result of that now.
And those ones who made that choice and it didn't work out, they're probably going to be all right, because they will continue to make that choice. It's kind of that right. Self-selection of like, if you're the person who chose that, you're going to keep making that choice and it'll pay off eventually.
It is a hard choice to make, though. I think my military service is a big factor in why I was able to jump into that choice, because during the pandemic, I was working full time, but then ultimately they wanted me back in the office, but no daycares were open yet because everything was shut down. I had nowhere to take my kids, and eventually came to the point where I had to resign my position to stay home with the kids. There, I was left with no other choice. So now I went from full-time job mom, working outside of the house, to I'm a full-time mom at home now. And I started this interview thing that I don't know where it's going. And I have to homeschool and I have to do all these new things. So, my military background, the way, my leadership has taught me over the years, and I've had some great leadership. Without that, I probably would not have been able to go from one thing to the other without pulling half my hair out, probably.
Let's dive into that, because I find that interesting, because a lot of people don't know what great leadership is. What was that? What did those leaders teach you or provide you or however you want to describe it, that kind of gave you that ability?
My favorite type of leaders were the ones that didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk. So they didn't just tell me what they expected from me. They did the same things they expected of me, and made them, themselves accountable to me for those same types of actions. Like, I had a sergeant major. I was not feeling well one day, and I was like, I won't go to sick call, I'll be fine. I'll go get medicine, come back to the office. It was not getting better at all. And my sergeant major saw that I was getting ill, immediately dropped everything. He was on the phone, I think. He immediately dropped everything, picked me up, took me in his truck, and drove me to the hospital because he saw that something was really wrong. Those type of things, you hope that leadership will do that for you, but not all leadership will. Those little things, like bringing you into the office just to tell you you're doing a good job. That might seem tedious. That might seem frivolous or something to some people, but that's important. Soldiers and people in general need to know when they're actually doing a good job or what they need to work on and whatnot, and be as plain and upfront with them as possible. Beating around the bush, oh gosh, I hated that, because then you never know exactly where you stand. you're just going all around these different things and never getting a straight answer as far as what they're expecting of you, and then you're lost from point A to point B. So, for me, great leadership was literally just leaders who didn't just tell me what they expected of me, but actually showed me how to perform in the way they expected of me. And I'm very grateful for them for that.
In that same line, and you mentioned earlier about your granddad's motivation. I've talked with a lot of people and they want to start podcasts or want to start posting videos on social media, and they all talk about this apprehension. What do you your story, and what do you tell people? Because you talk with a lot of them too that need to do the same thing with all those small businesses. How do you teach them or help them overcome that apprehension?
The apprehension to do what?
Oh, to like do what we're doing right now, to start a podcast, to just get on, to hold up your phone and take a video and then post it.
the hardest thing for people to understand is that your first video that you ever record is going to be awful. The moment you're okay with that mindset, just go for it. All you have to do is press record, and it is the hardest thing to do. Trust me. I mean, I had the news that my grandfather had just passed away, and I have my first video to record live that I've never done anything like this before. I'm literally doing Lamaze before I'm hitting the record button. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you. I did not know how to contain myself. It's awful. I've gotten better though. I've gotten to the point where I just do one big in and out and I can press record. I'm good. No more breathing in and out. But, you know, yeah, that's one of the biggest misconceptions, that people think it's got to be perfect, that you have to have all the graphics, that you have to have the fancy microphones and the fancy equipment. You know, you don't. You really don't. Your first video is just to get you started. Then you start building upon that to grow and get better and better. You know, so once I get people actually believing me and I can show them my first video to prove it to them. I mean, I had no microphone. I had no lighting. I was in my bedroom with like bed sheets covering the windows. Like my background was horrible. I was using a Microsoft Surface Pro for my computer. Like that's not even a full computer, but I used it for my camera and my audio. Right. I did what I could with what I had, and it worked out fine to the point where I could grow and get those things to enhance the show, but they're not necessary. So,
you know, I think I was just thinking about this. It's like I've seen a lot of people use like the equipment as like a form of like commitment device. That it's like, oh, I'm going to buy all this stuff so that I can do this, so that it'll force me to do this. And financial commitment devices are good and all, but from my personal experience, the best commitment device is going live, because you can't quit once you're going. And that's how I got my start doing videos with, you know, my first small business up in Miami, doing the indoor farm. I would just go live, and I would talk a couple times. I would kind of write something out, like read through it. But I knew that if I sat there and just recorded it, which is some of what I do now, you can get in that cycle of just constantly, wasn't good enough. And then if you just treat it like it's live, or if you do literally go live and you just go for it, even if you stumble, those will be the better versions, because there's no pulling back on it. I mean, I can even think with the early days of the podcast, Dad, I remember a couple times just being like, freezing. And they'd be like, can we cut this? And we're like, no, we're putting out the whole thing. Like, well, okay, well then guess who stopped doing that? Me, because I didn't want to look stupid anymore. So I stopped stuttering over my words like that. And if it does happen, I just keep going, because if you pause on it, it looks even worse than it did in the first place. So I like going live as that big commitment device. And I can see how that kind of pulled you right in with it and kept you moving on that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, going live, the best part of it is that you can't fool anybody. When you go live, the first thing that comes out your mouth, that's what's coming out. The first response you have, the first facial expression, there is no taking it back. You know, so now you're giving people a chance to actually get to know how you feel about things, what you think about things, your position on things, just by watching you react to other people say things, not just hearing you say it. And that is really huge for me, because I feel like that's what helps the show feel more authentic, and people can be like, okay, these are actually people talking and not just a scripted something.
Yeah. And that's even the, like, I was going to call it like the secret advantage to going live, right? Is you kind of get, because it's authentic, because you are live, you get a little bit of leeway. Like even, you know, watching the Super Bowl, Chris Collinsworth and one of those guys, if they mess up, like, we're not like, oh my gosh, wow, you know, he makes all this money. No, he was live at the freaking Super Bowl. That's a lot of pressure. We all write it off right away, unless it's something really bad. Even for the top people, if it's live, we just let it go, because we know that it's a lot of pressure, and you know, you can relate more to the person. Whereas if you're edited and you're polished, no leeway, zero leeway at all. If your podcast is edited and you're, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, you can't mess up anything, because if you do, then you chose to leave that. And that looks so much worse than if you're live.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I went into this business, not knowing anything about editing, nothing about nothing. So I didn't even want to try to attempt to edit my episodes. I said, look, what you get is what you get. I think in one of my episodes, I even asked my guests, okay, so what other questions can I ask you? And now when I watch that episode, I can't help but laugh at myself because what is wrong with you? You were live. How could you ask your guests, what else can I ask you? Like, what is wrong with you? But I think it was like my third episode, so I'll forgive myself.
And the podcast example was definitely one that was kind of formative for me as far as, the rhythm and all that kind of stuff. But I got to think back to earlier this year, I started doing the broadcasting, the commentary for the rugby games here for University of Arizona, which is so much fun. But like, okay, a podcast keeps moving, the rugby game keeps moving. Oh my gosh. And I'm going through all these, Polynesian names and French names and bouncing around trying to get all the kids' names right because their parents are all listening. And I'm thinking about how all the parents are listening, all this kind of stuff. And I remember in the first game I was doing it, I kind of froze on that same type of thing of it was like, oh crap, I just screwed that up. And then I was like, well, I can't really do anything. But I say, excuse me, sorry about that. And then just jumped on to the next thing because the game's going to keep moving. They're watching a live stream of the game. If I stop talking, that's even worse than saying, sorry about that. Let's keep going.
I could not even imagine that kind of pressure. I wouldn't even put myself in that position too much. Not at all.
Well, he's got a newfound respect for Chris Collinsworth, right? I mean,
oh,
yes.
Gosh.
Absolutely.
Oh,
well,
boy.
and I think the tidbit, sorry to cut you off there, Dad. I was just going to say the tidbit for that is I think that it's really smart to, if you're starting a podcast or even just, videos for your business or anything, that start them off live and then you can move into editing if that's what you want. But you should make yourself kind of go through that trial by fire, swim or die type thing, because otherwise you're going to be using that editing as a crutch. And that's probably going to, I mean, I don't know, because I've only had the, only been doing it this way, but I would guess that crutch would probably be a problem further down the road.
Oh yeah. I've gotten to the point where pre-recording episodes stresses me out more than a live video, which is great because now I know some people are going to be like, what is wrong with her? How does that make sense? But think about this for a second. On a pre-recorded video that you can mess up and delete it. So then you're constantly second guessing everything that's coming out of your mouth. Wait, I could have said that better. Oh, wait, let's wait a couple of seconds and I'll try that again, or something like that. You're constantly second guessing yourself. On a live video, you don't have that luxury. So then it's just, I'll go with the flow and you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, pre-recording stresses me out more than live recording now, which is great.
When did you feel the show go from hobby kind of feel good thing to, whoa, this is actually a business that I might get a little bit of money out of?
Okay. So I started this recording episodes in April 2020. By September-ish, somewhere around there, I was slowing down on people being interested, being interviewed. And I really didn't want to beg people to be on the show. So it was like, okay, universe, I'm thinking this might be the end. I've done my part for the small businesses that are local to me, that I know personally, and some that I didn't know. If I'm supposed to keep doing this, I'm going to post to a couple Facebook groups, and they happen to be veteran business groups. And I said, if nobody responds, if nobody cares, if nobody wants any part of it, then I'll stop right here and I'll consider that I've done what I'm supposed to do. But if I get a good enough response, then I will continue and see where this leads. Yeah, well, I went from doing one show a week and having maybe 2 people pre-scheduled for interviews to adding a second show and being scheduled through April of 2021 by the end of within 48 hours of that post. So yeah, the universe had other plans for me, basically. there was no other choice for me. This is it now. So after that, I was like, okay, I guess I got to start taking this a little more seriously. Let's see what I can do to learn how to make this better, what I can add to it. What are other people doing for their shows? I mean, at first it was just the web show. I wasn't even doing the podcast or a digital TV show like I have on Roku now. I just I was only doing the web series. So then it was just going from there, learning how to grow it, because ultimately it was benefiting the businesses who I were interviewing for free.
The growth is another interesting thing. So, and because this applies to multiple businesses. I mean, because you started off here, focus, I'm going to do this web show, I think is the way you put it, just the live. And then somebody probably, or you said, well, why not podcast? And then you said, well, why not TV? How did you make that choice? Because this, I mean, what I'm really leading towards is the business lesson here for the listeners, where it's, hey, focus on this, get this up and running before you do these, those 10 other things that are great ideas. So how did you kind of manage that process for you?
Okay, so for Small Business Saturday in 2020, I actually hosted a live virtual vendor event all day. I was live for 12 hours straight, had a new business featured every 20 minutes, I think it was. And it was basically similar to like a QVC or Home Shopping Network kind of feel. I was live the entire time, and then interviewing, or people were giving us tours of their business, what have you. But the purpose was to make small businesses the main source of shopping for that day, especially on Small Business Saturday. And a fellow veteran happened to watch it and reach out to me, asking me if I had ever considered making the web show into a TV show. Now, honestly, my first reaction was, dude, that's not funny. You should be playing with people's emotions like that during the holidays. Right? Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he's like, no, I'm for real. It's real. I promise. I'm going to send you an empty contract just so that you could see that it's legit. And at the time, I was still in contact with a lot of my friends because I used to be a paralegal in the Army. So I called up a couple of my lawyer buddies. I'm like, hey guys, so can you look this over for me? And they came back and told me, yeah, it looks legit. So look into it further and let us know if you need anything. So that's pretty much how that happened. The TV show is a very interesting hurdle. I never would have expected it to become a TV show, let alone be featured on IMDb now, where I'm giving credit to my guests and stuff, which is crazy. I'm an actual TV show. But, I thought it would be a really great opportunity to really take the businesses and make it about educating veterans. Like I mentioned to you during the show, when we were doing our interview, I love taking the TV show in a little bit of a different direction. I definitely introduce the businesses, their services, who the people are behind them, what have you. But then we take it one step further with the Small Biz Blueprint, where I'm asking them, okay, you've been there, you started your own business. Now, what from your experience can you take and teach future generations of entrepreneurs? If you started it during active duty, tell the soldiers that you did that, because I've lived the active duty life, and I can personally say that it is easy for us to get very comfortable in the idea that we're active duty and everything's paid for and we're traveling from here to there and whatnot, and not really thinking about what we're going to be doing post Army, because that's really not something, especially when I came in, because when you came in at that point, you're either a lifer or you're just a first contractor. So me, I was a lifer from day one. I knew I was going to stay in for 20 years. So I never really thought about what to do post Army, but here I am. I've got 4 years left before I can retire. And so I really wanted to use that to my advantage to help future generations of military or just civilian, whoever wants to watch it, just know that they don't have to wait until the time to figure something out. They could build it so that it's established for when that time comes, kind of a deal.
This is definitely in that naive civilian area. So sorry to the veterans and military folks out there, but I'm just throwing this out. One of the things I feel like I hear is a complaint a lot, and kind of a joke is like in the Army, it's hurry up and wait, get there so you can get there early so you can wait for an hour and that kind of stuff. Seems like that would be a good time to have one of these notebooks and be writing out a business plan. And you could be probably putting together quite a few things while you're hurrying up and waiting. I don't know how off I am on that, y'all.
No, you're not far off. I mean, I think the problem is that, especially when they're young, when they're first in the military, they're not really contemplating what can I be doing with my life. They're stuck in the moment that I'm a soldier now, or I'm a Marine now. God bless them. We'll worry. We'll just send you an extra prayer out there. Or they're in the Air Force, living it up in their resorts and stuff. But I love all my brothers and sisters in the armed forces. All love, and it's big brother love over here from the Army. But no, but it's just I don't think they recognize that whatever hobbies they have, or what specialties they may be involved with, or things that they like to do could potentially be turned into a business. Something as simple as woodworking, or something as they like to do stuff with metal or make art, or I don't know, pottery, something. They don't recognize that as something that could be a business. They just recognize it as a something they do on the side for fun. But then my show could feature somebody who does woodworking for their business, which I did actually. And now they see them and they're like, wait, I could do that stuff. Why can't I start a business? So now I'm not only just giving them the viewpoint of, yes, you can, but now I'm giving you a contact to reach out to ask questions about how to get started, because all my guests are always more than willing to help out, give advice, because we're all a part of the small biz community. We're a big family of our own.
I would say things have changed a bit, and how people that are in the service look at their time too. And
yes,
I remember when I was at that hurry up and wait, I was that private. It was if we weren't doing, it was called hip pocket training, we got in trouble. There was no sit down and contemplate your life.
Right.
It was
right.
No, you need to practice this, and now we still have more time, so now we're going to do this. And it's interesting because of what I do with the veteran community, and coaching guys and gals that are in transition. It's interesting how things have which is for the good, have changed, where that attitude is, yeah, we got to hurry up and wait, but how about we allow Joe to do something constructive, as opposed to Staff Sergeant Smith coming up with some hip pocket training for us to do. So we're busy soldiers, because busy soldiers are happy soldiers, right?
That was the way they used to think.
Yeah.
I think they're really trying to lean on the fact that soldiers need to have more education, which is why they're pushing for like classes and all these free classes that they offer through the military and whatnot, for stuff that people would easily pay hundreds of dollars for out in the civilian world. So I'm hoping it grows from that. But I know even to like get promoted and stuff, they're really pushing for degrees to be part of your promotion packet and all that jazz. So, I'm hoping that translates into, just that instead of just keeping them busy to keep them busy, that they're like, hey, you have a few minutes. You said you were interested in this. Why not look up to see if there's a class you could take on the website for free, get a certificate for it, and then build upon that in the civilian world, because it easily could translate.
Oh yeah, and I, what just popped into my mind is, things like Upwork and Fiverr, which you can do that, in the team house deployed in Afghanistan, and
yes,
couple hours, when you're not out on patrol or whatever, or guard duty, there's opportunity there too, which leads to more. So yeah, there's a if you look for it in the right way, I think now it's more accepted.
Yeah.
You know, when you couldn't even the soldiers that had trouble, you know, the privates when I was a lieutenant living in Alaska. Things were very expensive in Alaska, and soldiers asked if they could go get a part-time job to help make ends meet. You know, that young 20-year-old has got 3 kids. It's like, but you know what? They wanted to do the right thing, and they weren't allowed to. They couldn't go get a job, even though, you know, they were in a regular kind of like support job where they're only working Monday through Friday, kind of a 40-hour a week sort of thing. And they wanted to work Saturday and Sunday, and they weren't allowed to. And it's just so good that attitude is shifted some.
It has, yes.
So this has been a lot of fun, and man, we've jumped all over the place, which I shouldn't be surprised how wide a range we've tapped into with you. But I'm thinking, you know, for me, what I learned, my favorite thing is why you started doing what you started doing with the Small Biz Highlights is because it's about the people. It's about the human being and helping other human beings, serving, which is, you know, one of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes is, giving is living. And by giving and helping those businesses, I think that is just such a wonderful thing to start. And it's, you know what, it's proof of how successful that your podcast has become, and how you have a TV show, all these things. It's proof that when you do the right thing, it does come around. So that's what I learned for me, you know, that reminder of it's about the people. It's not about, you know, the brick and mortar, the sign, the whatever. It's about the people behind it. So I love that. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
I got a pretty actionable one, I think, actually, for you know, first time for me. But it's you need buddies. You need a guy. And Tiffany, you were talking about your lawyer buddies, and it just made me think to my lawyer buddy. And now I got a car buddy, and, you know, a tech buddy, and all these different things. You need that in life, that social group that you rely on for those type of things. And you still need to go grab a beer with them and all that kind of stuff other times. Otherwise, they won't help you with your car. But you got to take that time to build those relationships and to nurture them, because you need those people for certain things. I know I'm the guy for some of my friends with certain things, and I got a lot of friends that I'll call for all sorts of things as well. That's a really important thing, whether you're in a business or you're not, because you need that free advice sometimes.
You do. You absolutely do.
So Tiffany, how about you? What'd you learn?
Well, since I am not typically the interviewee here, no, I want to say that I have definitely learned. I've heard before plenty of times from big name people that everybody has a story. And because my business was so focused on the people that I was interviewing and making sure that I was doing everything I could to help them get the word out about their businesses and whatnot, I forgot to, you know, acknowledge the fact that I'm actually part of the business and making me as important as promoting the small businesses too. So this has taught me that it is absolutely okay to tell my story and talk about the show and everything I've been through, so that it can help benefit at least one person out there, hopefully. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How can folks find you, learn, you know, Small Biz Highlights, get in touch with you, and listen to the show and watch it too?
Okay, so super easy. smallbizhighlight.com. No, if you Google Small Biz Highlight, everything of ours comes up first thing, no matter what you do. But we're on Facebook, Instagram. If you want to make it even easier on yourself, you can go on Google Play and Apple App Store and download our app, which, little side note here, tomorrow's our 2-year anniversary. I'm going to be having a huge update to the app tomorrow that is going to completely change everything about the app. And I'm so excited. So yeah, you need to download it so that you can find out what it is, because I can't tell you yet. It's too early.
That's awesome. So it's actually in the store. So if we go to Apple Store or whatever it's called, and Google Play, just search for Small Biz Highlight.
And my little logo will pop up and you can download me.
And that's BIZ for those of you who have trouble with abbreviations. That's Small BIZ Highlight.
Yes. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Tiffany, this has been great. I so appreciate your time today and getting to hang out with you and hear some of your stories about the wonderful things you're doing with Small Biz Highlights. Love it. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Tiffany Roman, for joining us today, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.